Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician, and I've got something to show you. Hopefully it's interesting. Okay, I've got a deck of cards here, and it's a different kind of discussion. This is related to a recent video that I posted, and maybe somewhat of the last that we'll talk about this for a while, but just trying to sell this one idea here to my viewership out there. Imagine the scenario. Um, and this can apply in a lot of different scenarios, but we'll use this one example. You're doing a trick. You've got the deck. Card is selected. It's looked at. It's memorized, right? And you go about the effect. Card is placed back in the deck. I don't know how the effect goes, right? But they shuffle the cards. It's impossible. It's impossible, right? They've selected a card. They shuffle the deck, whatever. And there's supposed to be some kind of revelation or control that's going on there. You get the deck back, and you get down to that moment, right? That one moment where you have that one final outcome, and they say, "That's not my card." And this time, this wasn't part of the plan, right? This wasn't the magician messes up presentation and then, oops, surprise, it's actually something else. So what do you do? What do you do here? Now, I'm a big fan of universal outs. I do like the concept of universal outs, but I also recognize there's really no such thing as a universal out. When you mess something up, you have limited options that are driven by the type of effect that you messed up, right? There's some things you can't fix. If you're doing a dollar bill change and you drop the thumb tip on the floor, I may or may not have done that before, okay? But if you do something like that, that's it. There's nothing you can recover from. But I want to point out that with cards, if you're doing very general card magic, regular deck of cards, regular kinds of effects, you lose control of something, you lose the break, it just doesn't go right. Okay, you're forcing something and the force fails. You thought you had a good sight. We talked about the Al Koran classic force, right, where you give a card and converting that into sight. You do this and they don't go for that. They name something else, right? They name something you just don't have control over. It doesn't work out. You're dealing with one card on one card and it just doesn't work out. Is there a universal out for that kind of situation? And I think the answer is yes, and it's what I've been talking about, right? So what was it? The nine of diamonds. The universal out in these kinds of situations really is to have them name it. You convert your revelation into a named card rather than one that is seen and remembered. That's it. Now, what are your options? I mean, you can play out a number of different options here. You can try to get lucky, or you can go searching for it. One tactic that I think some magicians really search for is the ability to covertly find any card in the deck quickly, right? To be able to spread the cards and just find the card and be able to employ it without being noticed. I think that looking for that kind of a solution is a bit of a fool's errand. It's not impossible, particularly if you have some cards that are in play that you can pick up and look at. This all comes back to gambling. Okay, it all comes back to gambling, to cheating at poker, cheating at card games. When you're dealing with cheating at card games, you're trying to do something related to control in what should be a secure situation. The heat is on all the time. It's a game, and it would be potentially for money in those kinds of environments. People are paying attention. They're paying enough attention. There's protocol that needs to be followed. All of the tactics for cheating need to either deal with that protocol or violate the protocol in such a way that it doesn't appear to be violated. You have these restrictions you have to work under, right? And there is a whole vocabulary for that. There's a wide vocabulary for that. And one of the ones that we looked at just on a recent video is the jog shuffle, the top stock retention shuffle. And I do want to come back to this because if you think about how that is used in a real world kind of environment, you get this kind of a situation here. Let me set something up for you. Right. If you think about how that works in a real world environment, you would have the cards collected. In that moment, you would call together what you want because you see a bunch of cards face up. And then in order to negate the fact that everybody could see the cards on there, you follow up with a shuffle. Right? That's what this is for. So you do the shuffle, right? The cards get shuffled thoroughly. Then you have to have a cut, and there's ways to deal with that, right? If you have a really, really loose home game, you could do a cut and do it yourself, or someone else could cut and you can nullify the cut, shift it, pass it, whatever. Okay, but there's ways to deal with the protocol so that you can have a situation where you as the dealer, having had control in what should have been a fair mix-up of the cards, you would be able to deal out what you desire, right? Pair of pocket queens or whatever, okay? I'm using the security features, the shuffle, what looks like a fair shuffle, but is not, what looks like a fair cut, but is not, the security features of a secure game against the game. This is absolutely applicable to Magic, right? So you're in that situation. It doesn't work out. What wasn't intended to be magician messes up can turn into that kind of an effect pretty easily, right? As you can see, I don't have any control over this. That would have one of those great lines out there, and some people hate this line, but it is useful if you deliver it right. That would have been a good trick, right? That didn't work out, but that would have been a good trick, right? It's funny. It deflates. That kind of humor deflates the error without having to fully admit to it. Okay, I think there are times when you make mistakes where it is better to just admit that it didn't go right. I once I did the Mentalist pen with a Sharpie, right? Had the Sharpie sitting on the edge of a table and moved it, with my mind or whatever. And the Sharpie falls essentially on command, or apparently, and someone that was there, their brain was working the right way, and they say, I don't know how you do anything else you do, but I'm pretty sure I know how you do that one. And I just said, oh, okay. And I got him aside. I said, so what did you think of that? He said, oh, well, I think the Sharpie, if you let the Sharpie sit long enough, the fluid, the ink in the Sharpie will move to one side and it will fall. And I said, you're bang on, although it's a gimmick. I said, it's not. I said, that we really can't do that with a real pen, but it is a gimmick. You nailed it. You're good, smart, sharp thinker, right? Sometimes the best thing is admit it, right? When you mess up, but sometimes you don't have to. This is kind of one of those situations. You turn this into a named card effect, right? They named the card, 9 of Diamonds is what it was, and then you can turn this into the gambling protocol, which is good enough for the game. Certainly it can be good enough for the Magic, and that's kind of the point I'm making here, right? And in terms of the use of these jog shuffles, these very basic kinds of card control sleights that are not complex, or they're foolproof, they're easy to learn, there's no bad angles, and they look really good, and they're easy to get down. 9 of Diamonds, right? So you can take your opportunities and hit it. You see 9 of Hearts here, not here, not here. Obviously, I have no control over your card, right? You can see in here that the deck is legitimately shuffled. Perhaps you shuffled it or whatever. And you can see that I don't have any control. If we go looking for it, you can see it's up here. That's where your 9 of Diamonds is. it's completely lost. Now, of course, if I took control of this and I did everything, you know that I would be able to keep track of that card, right? But I don't want to do that. Instead, I'm going to have you deal with it, right? Again, don't know where it's at, don't have a clue. What I do want you to do, though, is tell me when to stop. Say stop. They say stop, you go there, and then you move on. You move on there with a transitioned effect. This is a totally different effect coming off of a failed one after demonstrating a lack of control. By the way, in all of this stuff, right, you have opportunities for hits. And if you get a hit in that, if you pay that out the right way as multiple outs, you can end it right there. So you can take some opportunity. You can do some of that. You can play that would have been a good trick as a running gag a couple of times and try to really test the odds before you go into this. Personally, I say just go straight into the named card effect without having to go through the rigmarole of trying to hit it and test the odds and finding it naturally. Spread the things out, show it's not there, call it whatever you want to do. Go into a named card effect and then take it off from there. That is your universal out for those kinds of tricks, right? In this case, we have they told us to stop. You can say, go ahead and count the cards. I don't know how many we have. There may be a dozen. You can go ahead and count them. You can reveal it one way like that. You could say, well, the one that we're interested in is the top one, right? You can deal off what you want. You could give them even more options. Say, this is way too many cards to deal with. We need to get fewer. Just tell me when to stop. They say stop right there. You push off those cards. Say, yeah, that's a little bit better, but this is still way too many cards. We need to get this down to fewer cards. Go ahead. Tell me when to stop again. They say stop right here, and you say good. We'll take those away. That leaves us with just the one card. I think that's right. I think that's what we want. We only want one in this effect. And of course, one that you chose. Again, I don't have control. You're the one with the control. As I demonstrated, I have no control in this situation. All of the control belongs to you, right? So you can go to a different kind of revelation, use that jog shuffle in the gambling protocol sense to demonstrate a loss of control. What's wrong with that? It's good enough for a game. It must be good enough here. The key is to have proofs. The key is to have proofs, right? If I can get the card lost in such a way that it really does seem lost, right? Where you can't find it anywhere. It doesn't seem to be in any particular location. I'm in a good spot, and then I'm able to reveal it whenever I want to. If you like palming out cards, you can get it so that it's lost, but then you can palm it out. You have access to it. You get it out of there, put it somewhere else, transition the effect. Never ever feel in these types of effects where you have a thought of card, a seen card, a chosen card, and then ultimately a lost opportunity, an error in the revelation. Never feel like you're ever up a creek in that kind of a trick. You can always have them name the card. You can always gain control of it. You can always transition. You always have these tools. Don't ever think that these types of tools are subpar. They're not. Okay, the very origin of these tools were intended for secure games where money was involved, right? Keep that in mind. If they're good enough for those situations, they are good enough for Magic. Open your eyes, broaden your horizons, be willing to just do the hands-on control, a few proofs, and then think more about the revelation. Think more about the effect. Think more about the design. All you need is a jog shuffle to lose it, a proof to show it's lost, it's not in access. And then if you have a handful of revelations from that situation, you have an act. You have a complete act. It can be the only thing you ever do. You know, just 5 good revelations off of that, because you can always go back to the same situation and go on to a different revelation. Every different revelation, and I know I'm preaching to the choir. You all know this. I don't mean to, belittle anybody or talk down to anybody, but you all know that if you have 5 different revelations, you have 5 different tricks. It doesn't matter if the backside mechanics are identical, right? Those revelations are all different. It's all about increasing the tension, waiting long enough for the revelation, holding it off, making sure that you spend time interacting with the spectators, spending time communicating with them so that the revelation can be as impactful as possible. So with that, right, universal out for those kinds of tricks, I'll see myself out. Good luck with that. Happy magic.